Here's how a journalist creates a smokescreen of innuendo and controversy to hide awkward but clear scientific findings. Study examines scientists' climate credibility, announces BBC Online News. It's about a scientific paper published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, which found that researchers convinced of climate change have superior provenance and expertise than those unconvinced. Stanford University issued a press release to coincide with publication, practically writing the story for journalists. But the findings, reported by the BBC, one of the most trusted journalistic institutions in the world, have another angle added: controversy, whilst mention of peer review in the PNAS paper had been taken away. The BBC quotes other scientists unconnected to the PNAS paper and gives the impression that there is some kind of dialogue going on. But where? The location of a dialogue is hugely important. It's more than context, it is inextricably linked to how it can be resolved. Are such words being shouted in the streets, uttered in the courts or Parliament, or, as implied here, exchanged in the pages of a lofty journal? No. The dialogue being reported is going on in the journalist's head. The BBC contacted those sceptical of climate change research for their reaction, but crucial refutations of the Stanford team are not reported in the BBC's account. But climate skeptics questioned the findings, saying that publication in scientific journals was not a fair test of expertise. What the BBC don't mention here is that these are standard academic metrics. The PNAS paper was peer-reviewed, which means that experts in the relevant scientific fields check the paper for validity, significance and originality. Peer review is an essential dividing line for judging what is scientific and what is speculation and opinion. Most scientists make a careful distinction between their peer-reviewed findings and their more general opinions. But the quotes from skeptics in the BBC report weren't peer-reviewed, so they don't carry the same weight, a point missed by the BBC when they claim that they're giving a right of reply. Unfortunately, it's a one-way street. The BBC report concludes with the words that the paper was authored by, quote, beneficiaries of the man-made warming scare. If there was the slightest truth in that suggestion, it would deserve investigation. It would be quite a scoop for BBC journalist Palab Ghosh. But there isn't any truth in it, because the authors declare no conflict of interest. Here's the scientists explaining why they went to all the trouble of producing this study. We hope to put to rest the notion that keeps being reported in the media, that the scientists disagree about whether human activity is contributing to climate change. It's sad that we even have to do this, said Professor Schneider. The media world has just folded up and fired its reporters with expertise in science. But the BBC reported opinion was divided on the issue following recent scandals such as ClimateGate and the use of non-peer-reviewed literature in the IPCC findings. The suggestion is that the bias is restricted to and as recent as these two events, and that this formed the motivation behind the paper. But that cannot be true, because the PNAS paper clearly predates these two events. ClimateGate surfaces in November 2009, but work began on the PNAS paper in September 2009. That's 2 months before ClimateGate. And the non-peer-reviewed IPCC findings, that story, called AmazonGate, was carried by the Sunday Times on 31st of January 2010, and was withdrawn a couple of days before the BBC report in June. The Andrek paper was sent for review in December 2009. So the BBC says that these discredited stories in red were the catalyst for these climate research events in black. It's an awkward factual error, resurrecting and relying on a story known to be untrue.